Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bolin. Thank you all for joining me. So apparently, President Joe Biden, with all due respect, did not say what he said the other night. He didn't really mean all Trump supporters were against the democracy, okay? Although we're a constitutional republic, as one commentator said, which is so true. He didn't really say that. Right? That's what he said. He didn't really say that when we all know he actually said that. But let's see what his defense is. Let's see. Let's analyze President Joe Biden's defense. So, accordingly, President Joe Biden tried Friday to walk back his dark political speech from the night before after receiving a considerable backlash for trying to portray supporters of former President Donald Trump as radical extremists who threaten the United States, which absolutely makes no sense at all, because what forms of radical extremists have they showed other than January 6th? And that's been argued. Okay, so we're not going to even go there. So apparently this is what he said. I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat to the country. Let me read that again. I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat to the country, but he said that. Biden replied when asked by reporters at the White House about why he decided to say that Trump and his supporters were a threat to democracy. The president tried to narrow his definition of exactly who he was talking about when he said, quote, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of this country in his speech Thursday night at Independence Hall in Pennsylvania. I do think anyone who calls for get this now, this is his defense. I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence and fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuse to acknowledge an election has been won, insists upon changing the way in which to rule, you count votes, he said. This is a threat to democracy and everything we stand for. Let me get something straight, Mr. Joe Biden. Wasn't it your political party and your radical political party that was doing that? Aren't they the ones doing that? Aren't they the ones using violence? And aren't you Democrats the one that's refusing to condemn the violence that the radical left, like Black Lives Matter and Antifa, have been using against people that oppose their view? Haven't they been doing that? And haven't your political party, Mr. Joe Biden, been the ones that have refused to acknowledge this and call it out as violence? Biden tried to walk back his darker assertions, noting that all Trump supporters did not support everything he did. When people voted for Donald Trump and support him now, they weren't voting for attacking the Capitol. They weren't voting for overruling an election, he said. They were voting for a philosophy that he put forward. And let me end the article right there, because you guys can read the rest of this dribble. But suffices to say is that, from what I understand, when Hillary Clinton was being interviewed and she was campaigning against former President Donald Trump, she stated in the interview, and I'm paraphrasing what she said though, but she said in essence, if Donald Trump wins, we can assume that the election was stolen. She said that out of her mouth. She said it out of her mouth. But no one talked about that. No one said anything about that. You hardly hear anything about what she said. And yet, when supposedly Trump supporters say that the election was stolen, okay, then we wrong. We're against the democracy. We're against it. But your culprit said the same thing. She said implied the same thing. But no one said anything about. You see what I'm saying? You see the double standard, clearly a double standard. Now, let me say this up front. First of all, what Biden said, to try to retract back what he said, everything he said was not out of context. This is what the leftist media always did with Donald Trump. They would say he's racist, they would say he's this, and they would say he's that, and then they would take certain excerpts of his speeches out of context all the time to try to paint him as being a racist or homophobic or transphobic or whatever phobia. They would always try to do that and take it out of context. With Joe Biden's speech, this wasn't taken out of context. Anybody with ears to hear, whether he was on the left or the right, in between, on top or at the bottom, understood exactly what he was talking about. It was right within context. Now he wants to retract what he said. Now, to sum this up, Here's my philosophy. Here's my theory. But my theory is based on my studies in different types of material and information. Okay. Here's my theory of why he would say what he said during the speech, clearly say what he was saying during the speech. Everybody knows what he said was what was Trump supporters, period. Okay. Because you should have clarified it in the speech and then come back. This is what I believe he did. On a deeper esoteric point of view, they put out a lie to plant in the minds of millions of Americans, gullible Americans who's not educated, who don't study, who don't go beyond what they hear on the news media. He puts that in their mind, right? Then he comes back and retracts it. The purpose of retracting it is to keep the pressure off him. But the purpose of telling a blatant lie is to get to the minds of gullible people who don't fully understand the bigger picture. Now, once you come back and say, okay, that's not what I meant, and to try to apologize for it, it won't matter. It won't matter. You want to know why? Because the lie that you just planted in the minds of people who are always susceptible to that is already in their subconscious. So no matter what kind of truth he try to spin, it's not going to register. I'm gonna give you another example. The situation with Michael Brown in 2017, when he was shot by police. What was the narrative that was being pushed? What was the narrative that was being pushed? Hands up, don't shoot. You got all these African Americans walking around, hands up, don't shoot, don't even know what's going on. Black Lives Matter, and everybody jumped on top of that, right? And it was the lie was pushed that his hands was up and he was shot because he was black. That was the lie that was pushed. It was pushed, it was pushed, it was pushed, it was pushed. Come find out that wasn't an issue at all. His hands wasn't up. He tried to take the weapons of the police officer, and I think one particular source says he tried to strike him, and that's why he got shot. But by the time the truth came out, nobody wanted to hear the truth. It didn't matter then because the lie had been planted in the subconscious of millions of people. So even if you tell them, oh, his hands wasn't up, he got shot because of what he did, okay, they're not going to believe it because the lie has been planted in their subconscious. You get what I'm saying? I think a lot of this stuff is a bunch of bull crap. He knew exactly what he was saying, and his handlers had him say what he said to plant in the minds of gullible Americans, the gullible ones, right? Okay, that, oh, they are all Trump supporters are nothing but a bunch of crazy people out here, and you got to isolate them from everybody else. Because after all, this is all the Democrats got is to isolate and demonize people who supported the man. That's what I think is going on. It's just mind control. It's just mind control. But on a purely natural level, what is he smoking? What is he messing with? You know what I mean? On a purely comical, natural level, what is this man messing with? What kind of stuff is he doing? Go see the movie. What is it? It's a new movie coming out now. I think it's sponsored by Breitbart called My Son Hunter, something like that. I was reading a portion of an article that stated that it was shown to 70 conservative viewers. And I understand, you know, the thing about that is that's kind of, you know, if you're showing it to conservatives, of course, they're going to like it more than likely. So to me, that sounds kind of biased, but that's a whole nother story. I digress on that. The point is that according to this article, everyone after the viewing, I think it was a private viewing, they all jumped and shouted and was standing on and clapping their hands and everything about this. Yeah, you know, this is what's going on here, man. This is what's going on. You know, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. But this is what I'm thinking. You know, this is what I'm thinking. That it's just a big clown show. I think he's playing games with the American public, and that his handlers are telling them what to say, tell a lie, demonize Trump supporters so that they can get in the mind of millions of gullible Americans, and then get up next and then say, well, I didn't really mean all of them. It doesn't matter because now it's in the mind of gullible Americans. Gullible ones now, not everybody. So now you creating more division. You becoming more divisive purposely. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. God bless you all and see you again.